everyone. Welcome to the June episode of Miracle Conversations. This is a podcast where Dave Asomaning and I, Brittany New, we come together every month and we talk about miracle mindsets. So if you want to learn how to cultivate a miracle mindset, you are in the right place. I skipped through those introductions pretty quick, but again, I'm Brittany New and I'm an international entrepreneur. I specialize in branding and graphic design, and Dave is an executive coach who specializes in miracle mindsets. And he's got a lot of great insights that we cover in this show, where we pull an excerpt from a book called A Course in Miracles, and we expand on it in terms of the theme that we have for this year, which happens to be vision for 2024. So Dave, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Hey, Brittany, thank you for that initial intro. Great to see you for this episode, and
Likewise.
I appreciate being on the podcast episode with you. Looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So yeah, I live in Florida, which I love. We were just talking about that. Great summertime vibes all over the place. It's just great. Some people complain it's too hot, but again, not to digress too far in talking about the weather, but I do like it warm. So happy with where we are now. And then even in the winter, it's still nothing to complain about, really. I mean, Florida is like a paradise in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Other people's views notwithstanding. So,
Mm-hmm.
executive coaching, yeah, it's been an interesting journey over these last few decades, from psychotherapy, where we're dealing with anxiety and depression and things like that, and course of treatment for those things, uh, to where I've evolved into executive coaching and working with leaders and their enterprises and teams and the things that they want to accomplish for those enterprises and with regard to their leadership visions and legacies. And then at the same time, also working with them on their personal lives, which usually means their families. And the reason I'm saying all of that is because the way we do miracle mindsets together, the way I do miracle mindsets in executive coaching with my clients, usually revolves around two areas. One is using miracle mindset to think of the biggest possible visions that my clients can imagine wanting to accomplish. So it's really going big on the one hand. And then the other side of the miracle mindset process is dealing with the crises that my clients usually come to me with. So it could be uh, a breakdown in team relationships, or uh, a sense of overwhelming stress that is unrelenting and no idea how to continue to get good results while letting go of the hard driving, incredible just levels of tension and frustration trying to get things done for on behalf of their enterprises. So, and then it could also be a health problem, a health crisis, uh, a faltering, declining, uh, crisis-ridden marriage or relationship with kids, um, even adult children. Uh, Sometimes it has to do with a crisis around identity. I've made $100 million. I have that sitting. It's cozy. It's there. It's not going anywhere. I can tap into that for the rest of my life, but I don't know what to do with myself. Truly, I don't know what my purpose is now that I've finally sold my business and have all the money that I could want. Um, which is another aspect of this executive coaching focus, in that I work mostly with ultra wealthy clients in that space. So it's changing, it's always evolving, but I would say 20 million to $1 billion. That's the kind of the demographic that I work with at this time. My aspiration for the business is to work with people who are solidly over the $1 billion mark. So it's been an interesting journey with ultra high net worth clients and their unique needs and concerns. And I chuckle because I love my clients, I respect them. It's my bread and butter, of course. Um, and I don't trash talk anybody, but um, most of us, until we get into this arena, can't fathom the kinds of concerns that the ultra wealthy have in a sympathetic way. Most people who are not involved in the wealth industry they just don't give two hoots about what the concerns of the wealthy are for the most part.
Yeah.
So I chuckle about that discrepancy, and but it's a privilege and an honor, and I love it. I love learning in this space. Um, so there's that, but at the same time, and Brittany, through this podcast that we've been doing and other things, um, there's an attempt to reach a wider audience that could benefit from um, the offerings, the ideas, and so that's a part of what we do on these calls. And a low hanging fruit, low price point, the kind of thing that is, maybe not accessible in my regular coaching because of the price points that are involved for my clients, my regular clients. But okay, so that's all part of the background. Just a couple other things, and then I'll check with you, Brittany, and then we'll get to the lesson we're going to look at for today. So in this process that I do around miracle mindsets, a miracle is a solution to a problem that seems impossible to solve. Solutions to problems that seem impossible to solve. And for me and for a lot of my audience and my clients, it's God sourced. The solutions are God sourced. So that distinction is important to some people. It's not important to other people. And again, Brittany, we've uh, taken care not to be religious zealots or extremists. It's referring to divinely sourced miracles can relate to your Buddha, your inner Christ, your inner Muhammad or Allah, however you want to do it, without disrespecting how these different traditions operate, but without sort of also taking a position that there's only one way, and that if you're not following this way or that way, you're wrong, or God forbid, you're going to hell. Some kind of extreme position like that. Um, and then, as I mentioned earlier, my clients usually have various crises as they try to achieve their big, hairy, audacious goals, their big dreams, their moonshots. And so, the specific program that I created for that, the coaching program, is named Nightmares to Miracles. And then, Miracle Mindset is a whole slew of things that help people stay focused in a lifelong practice of cultivating a connection to divine source for miracles, right? So, as you mentioned, Brittany, vision is the theme for this year. We've done other themes in the past, such as forgiveness, atonement, meditation, light, peace. And over the last several years, we now have a nice repository, thanks to you, Brittany, which I'll mention it more about in just a moment, on YouTube and in our written blog and in our Libsyn audio podcast account. So just one more thing before I turn to you and see if there are any thoughts you have, and then I want to speak a little bit more after you've shared any thoughts, Brittany, about your part in this miracle process that we're doing. So the last thing I wanted to share is that I on a personal level, have been dedicated to lesson 47 in A Course in Miracles, uh, walked with that lesson, which says, God is the strength in which I trust. Walked with that lesson the whole of 2023. I'm walking with that lesson again this year, 2024. And I really love that lesson. It just ties so many things together in a way that I find personally useful and use with my clients a lot when it comes to miracle mindset. So just wanted to mention all of that. Brittany, any thoughts?
No, I just wanted to add that it's a pleasure doing this show with you every month, and it's really a miracle, like how we came together on this, and how I definitely always try to focus on mindset through my whole career. I've been doing that. So then when Dave came in and said, "Do you want to do the show together?" I thought it just made perfect sense. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Fantastic. Yeah, riffing off of what you just shared,
Mm-hmm.
mindset is a big and very attractive area
Mm-hmm.
in the coaching world.
Yes.
A lot of people talk about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just adding here that this is differentiated in a more granular way, even
Mm-hmm.
from positive mindset or growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
which is usually contrasted with fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Millionaire mindset is another
Mm-hmm.
variation on the theme. Or there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different pockets of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is specifically miracle mindset,
Yes.
which
And to
is
riff off of that, I don't
yeah.
find this conversation anywhere else. I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Oh
So this is
well,
a very unique platform. If you guys are new to Miracle Mindset, you're lucky that you find this. But yeah, I see. You're right. There's a lot of talk about mindset for the past, I don't know, 15 years. It's been booming, and so yeah, a lot of it's positive mindset, law of attraction, things like that. But Miracle Mindset really takes it to the next level, I think, in terms of the connection to the divine, which is where we focus here.
excellent. That's you've
Mm-hmm.
taken the words right out of my mouth. Like
Mm-hmm.
you did a beautiful way. I like that because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's not our vibe on our thing is not this is better than anything else or
Mm-hmm.
we have the secret that nobody else has. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that
Mm-hmm.
in the world, out there in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. I'm not knocking anybody else's hustle, but it is a privilege and a delight to have, as you mentioned, something that is consistently God sourced.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that is about the miracle. In other words, if a person is faced with something that seems impossible to solve,
Mm-hmm.
what is the way to tap into the place where it can be solved?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A health issue, wealth issue, money issue,
Mm-hmm.
business, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And um, it is a unique path. And to your point um, about not seeing it a lot of places, I find this to be true. I go through the day listening to CNN or the news or and I always say it's an occupational hazard because I might have a client on there, who
Mm-hmm.
I need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they saying? Because they've asked, how should I position myself in the media? Or there's this
Mm-hmm.
controversial issue, or I'm in hot water because of this, or I could be in hot
Mm-hmm.
water. Okay, so I'm following the news, but that's just kind of an excuse
Mm-hmm.
that puts a pretty face on the fact that I like to track what's happening
Mm-hmm.
through the socials and media and so on. But anyway, the point I'm making here is that um, I can go for. I try not to do this, but I could easily go for hours and not hear anything about miracle mindset
Mm-hmm.
or what's implied as miracle mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I really do the practice for myself is that I take intermittent breaks to reconnect with miracle mindset as I'm
Mm-hmm.
listening to things
Mm-hmm.
because it's just so easy to get swallowed up in the
Mm-hmm.
analysis. Well, this is the problem, that's the problem, this is the problem, that's the
Mm-hmm.
problem. Again, promise not to be
Yeah.
critical of other people.
Yeah. Let
But
me
go
make
ahead.
an aside here.
Yeah.
I recently rewatched the movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. I haven't
Uh
seen
huh.
it since perhaps it came out a couple times. I'd seen it. It wasn't completely foreign to me, but when I watched the movie now, I was just in shock of um, how negative the movie was. I mean,
Mm.
he was using two things, I would say, grit and growth mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
his whole, he was learning how to adapt in every situation and he had grit. That's good, but I didn't see him step away from his situation and just be like, I need help. It was just grit after grit after grit. And I think that's a good example of how life feels when you're in the nightmare. And grit eventually got him out of it, but he had to go through a lot of things in between. And I was criticizing his parenting. I was like, why didn't you let the son go live with the mother? Why would you take him to the bathroom stall? I was like, this is an awful movie perpetuating the unnecessary grit of the American dream. That's what I think. And I think I have a whole new perspective. Like, it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to support your family and keep your wife. And there was a lot, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but I had a lot of different opinions watching it now than I did when I first watched it.
Well, okay, so a couple of things. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I won't make any promises that I can't keep uh, in terms of our audience,
Mm.
but I can say to you that I'll watch it
Mm.
and then maybe we can discuss it more as a
Yeah,
kind
I
of
bet it is.
example on our show about
Mm-hmm.
um, what we're
Almost
trying
what
to
not to do. Yeah,
say that
minimize,
again.
right? Yeah, sorry. Almost what not to do.
Yeah, it's we're talking about miracle mindset as a way
Mm-hmm.
to mitigate
Mm-hmm.
the stress and the strain
Mm-hmm.
of human grit
Mm-hmm.
and determination, which is
Mm-hmm.
important,
Mm-hmm.
but is overused or over the benefits of which are overestimated when it comes to
Yes.
relying on letting the divine do the heavy lifting.
Yes.
That's a big thing that we talk about in different ways. Now, everything we're doing is so you totally nailed it. So it might be interesting to watch it and then have some ongoing discussion. Again, not to slam the movie ultimately, although we can be critical of it, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, A Course in Miracles teaches us to love things and embrace them and give them to God
Mm-hmm.
rather than attack them. So that's why you
Mm-hmm.
keep hearing me pulling my punches. I mean, I have a very hostile, critical mind about a lot of things, just so I'm clear. But I'm always pulling my punches, like, okay, all right, Dave,
Mm-hmm.
bring it to God,
Yeah.
because otherwise that makes your life. You know, again, I'm not saying anything about what you said, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying where I'm coming from on
Mm-hmm.
it. So yeah, thank you for that. That's really excellent because huge part of miracle mindset is letting God move the mountain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's to borrow the language from some other people that I do this with. So, well,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so I lost my train of thought a little bit, but where we're going next is I want to celebrate our journey together. That you are making a bit of a segue into that. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
affirming that you enjoy what we do. Um, I really more and more with each passing month and each episode and each year that we've done this together, I just I can tell that God brought us together to do something here uh, that's miracle minded. And I always say, in case there are inquiring minds, you and I have never met in person. So one of the miracles is the technological miracle by which we have been so productive. Now, we're not the only ones. There are a lot of people in the world, but it's our journey. And I just, I'm so ecstatic about it, And this is a quote. Again, I'm a little bit, these are the preliminaries I mentioned before in another episode that my New Testament professor used to do. Like if we had an hour and a half lecture, an hour would be preliminaries. All the things about the Greco Roman world that he wanted to say before we'd examine a section of scripture for the last
Mm.
30 minutes or something. It was funny, but I think I've borrowed that. So these are all preliminaries. So one of my preliminaries here is that Mark Cuban, April 15th, the day before April 15th, that was tax day. He was tweeting that he was getting ready to wire his tax payment to the IRS, and it was going to be $288 million. That was what he was going to pay for
Wow.
taxes for this past year.
Woo.
200, $288 million. And then there are a lot of different things about the text, why he was doing it. And then somebody else, the way the internet is, it's so funny how people think. Somebody said, well, just don't damage to Mark Cuban in the tweet. It said, just don't damage your hand patting yourself on the back for that. So I thought that was one of the funniest things I've heard. So anyway, all of that to say, by way of preliminaries, that I don't want to damage my hand patting us on the back for everything we've done and accomplished. It's not at the $288 million tax level yet, but we're working on it. So anyway, again, just preliminary. So the point I'm making here is that we've had some milestones together. I just want to highlight those before we get to our actual content for new content for today. So you and I met when I needed somebody. It was just a hunch, somebody who could make my worksheets that I would use with my clients better. And wow, how deeply I needed the help and didn't even know it. Because I was just sending Word documents to clients, typed out, just no frills, nothing. And you took the worksheets and you really beautified them. It's really quite amazing. Then I was like, okay, Brittany helped me with all this stuff. I need some video modules for my online course. I'll just record some stuff. It's going to be fairly primitive, but I'll throw it over to Brittany if she's willing and see what she can do. You took all of those. You provided intros, outros, graphics. Just made the whole thing uh, saleable. I mean, it's some stuff I could sell, at that point. Just amazing, the transformation. I repurposed all of that audio and video and stuff into the book, Nightmares to Miracles book, which is the same name as the online course that I mentioned you helped me with. And then doing our monthly show, I checked in with you. I said, hey, look, is there any way you can help me with this? I need like a sidekick for the show, somebody that I can talk with. So it just doesn't seem like such a steep climb with me carrying the whole thing. And I can turn to you and see if you have thoughts. And in many ways, you represent an important aspect of our audience, right? Somebody who is not um, necessarily a complete devotee to A Course in Miracles, but is willing to be in conversation with it, and that reflects, a lot of the people we're going to meet in the world. And a lot of people who come to me are not necessarily interested in A Course in Miracles. They might get bits and pieces of it from me. Occasionally, somebody will say, hey, look, I really want to go deeper with it. Can you teach me? And we'll do that process, but it's not a requirement. So anyway, that's all really wonderful stuff. And then finally, this all culminates in this podcast, right? There's many different moving parts to this. And the reason I'm chuckling to myself again is that you take this raw footage from the Zoom call and then you edit it and then you distribute it into the YouTube channel we have, the audio part on Libsyn, and then you transform the audio into a written blog, right? And it's just an amazing set of skills that you have that meet a need that I have. And I hear often the way people sell their services to me is, oh, if you're just constantly on social media posting and doing this and doing that, and with your blog and your podcast, and you're wasting your time, you should be doing something else. And I'm like, okay, that's not how it is for me at all. It's just a miracle process. I show up and do what I can do. You do what you are skilled in and can do, and we have an alliance. It's just amazing how it gets posted. Not to mention the person I have doing the social media. We're not as engaged with each other as you and I are. It's a different project, but they're a great person, great talent, and they just post. They have an intuitive understanding, and they just post to all the social places. So it's a blessing. It's not fatiguing. I'm not on social media all the time. I'm not even looking for clients really there. Just establishing thought leadership, and like you said, this approach to miracle mindset. Again, I'm not blocking clients if they want to come through those channels. But anyway, so we've been on this miraculous journey, and then people might say, well, Dave, why do you talk about it every time you're on this podcast? And I'm like, well, it's sort of like the way that you might have a biblical miracle, right? One of the ones for me is the miraculous catch. There's the woman with the issue of blood who was healed. There's the turning of water to wine. There's the restoring of sight to the blind. There's a crossing of the Red Sea when it parts. I mean, there's endless miracles in the Bible, and they're there, and humanity has been rehearsing them and drawing nurture from them for centuries, millennia. And I feel it's the same way with the miracles we've been blessed with. The more we repeat them, are grateful for them, give thanks for them, think about them, reflect on them, share them, the more they set the stage for even more miracles, right? So, with all of that, Brittany, anything you want to say about where people can reach you, and just your promo?
Thank you. Thanks for the space to share. Sure, I have a website. It's brittanynew.com. And it's also linked in the show notes of the episode. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I have some videos about my life and tutorials. If you want to kind of take your own media into your own hands, you can follow along and do as I do to do some of those things, like the worksheets that Dave mentioned. So yeah, you can look me up on YouTube, and my channel is just my name, Brittany New.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brittany. Excellent. Just so glad that Spirit brought us together and we're on this amazing journey together. You do an amazing job
Thank you.
beautifying and making it professional. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. So, all right. So, to the lesson for today. The lesson is lesson 159 from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is not the only place for miracle mindset um, content and information that one can riff on, but it is one of the more powerful sources. And for me, it's actually the most powerful, but not the only one. So just to be clear on that. And I'm also learning and doing this podcast that can't exhaust the message in any one of these lessons that we highlight on the theme of the year. So uh, we'll do the best we can to highlight a few things that can be helpful on a personal level or at the leadership level when you're thinking about deepening your miracle mindset. So, lesson 159 says, as its main affirmation at the top, I give the miracles I have received. I give the miracles I have received. And then the teacher of this lesson, this is one of 365 lessons, which is sort of about a third of what A Course in Miracles is all about, which is these daily lessons. But here we have the following. The teacher is saying, no one can give what they have not received. To give a thing requires first that you have it in your own possession. Here the laws of heaven and the world agree, but here they also separate. The world believes that to possess a thing it must be kept. Salvation teaches otherwise. To give is how you recognize you have received. It is proof that what you have is yours. So this is really just a powerful, fascinating concept. I'll comment a little bit and then check to see if you have any thoughts, Brittany, and then we'll just go through the rest of the lesson. It goes pretty quickly. So here the Course is making a distinction between heaven and the world, right? So in the world system, if I have 10 oranges and I give somebody 5 oranges, 5 of those oranges, I'm depleted. I have lost or decreased my store of oranges by 5. I used to have 5. Oh, now I have. I used to have 10. Oh, now I have 5. I gave you 5. It's nice to share, but I have fewer oranges or sort of on the material, physical realm. That's the way the world sees how I have something and what happens when I give from what I have. The way it happens in heaven is that if I have 10 oranges and I give you 5, I have access to a source that has infinite number of oranges in it. There is no end. And if that's part of what I'm wanting to do or supposed to do, I can give you endless oranges from that store, right? So oranges is a bit of a silly metaphor, but what it's really getting at is that I can do the same thing with healing. I can do the same thing with forgiveness. I can do the same thing with other forms of abundance. If I come from the world, this closed, physical, material, we talked about this earlier, this nightmarish place, then when I give, I'm being depleted, and it makes it uncomfortable to give, or it makes me greedy. I don't want to give. I want to keep, and I need to get more oranges from somewhere. Forget about giving other people some of my limited oranges. That's the world system. From the heavenly system, I'm tapped into a place of abundance and I can give endlessly, right? So obviously, with regard to miracle mindset, the whole purpose of what we do is to tap into this infinite source, right? Okay, so now, how does this relate to vision? We're going to do a couple of quick things on that, and then we'll do some application, and that'll be it. So, in paragraph 3, we're being led down by the teacher down the path of understanding that Christ's vision is unique in that it can see the infinite abundance that heaven holds for us, and it can see the incredible scarcity orientation of the world. And that as part of miracle mindset, we are letting Christ's vision become our vision. Right? So just a couple of quick headlines from each of the paragraphs. Christ's vision is a miracle. It comes from far beyond itself, for it reflects eternal love and the rebirth of love, which never dies. That's just one piece of Christ's vision, which we are learning to adopt. In paragraph 4, it says, Christ's vision is the miracle in which all miracles are born. So if we're talking about miracle mindset, we want to tap into Christ's vision because that's where all miracles come from. right? Finally, Christ's vision is the bridge between the worlds, right? Which means that even though we live in a place that's nightmarish and limited in terms of the, the physicality of it, Christ's vision and adopting it for ourselves bridges us to this place of infinite abundance. Um, and then this is one of the things I love the most here. It says, um, in this place we're tapping into, the door is never locked and no one is denied. This is from paragraph 6, starting with sentence 4. Here, the door is never locked and no one is denied their least request or their most urgent need. There is no sickness not already healed, no lack unsatisfied, no need unmet within this golden treasury of Christ. So the idea there is that every good thing we could ever need or want is already available to us in this treasury of Christ. And if we use the vision of Christ to tap into it, then it'll be ours to have and ours to share with other people without limitation. Back to that example of the oranges. All right, so now a couple of quick things, and then I'll check with you, Brittany. So um, the exercises for today are not as deliberate as they are around meditation like they've been in the past, right? So here, what it's basically asking us to do is to give assent to this vision of Christ and to use the vision of Christ to tap into this repository of total, complete, perfect abundance in every direction, healing, uh, an actual abundance of various kinds, forgiveness, love, and so on. So around the application of all of this, we've been talking about being a lighthouse brand, which basically means that we are a source of light and love and healing and forgiveness and all these other good things in the world. And that the world is like a very choppy, dangerous ocean for most people, for many of us, until we tap into these sources. And so the application then is whether it's in one's personal life or in one's leadership as a super wealthy mover and shaker or an up and comer in that area, how do we tap into this so that we then are sharing this light with the world and not coming from a place of scarcity and limitation, right? So that's the broad context of application regarding the Lighthouse brand. So, call to action for everybody who's interested in this is the question for you: how can you tap into heaven's infinite uh, storehouse that we just talked about? How can you personally take steps to do that, right? Not telling you what to do and how to do it, other than these broad guidelines. Read and reread lesson 159. Uh, I think there's a link to acim.org in our show notes, or you can just easily find it online, acim.org. There's a digital version. You can plug in lesson 159 and just read this lesson about what it's encouraging us to do, right? So let me pause here. Brittany, any reactions, any comments, any questions to any of this? Anything you want to say or ask as we move towards the
Yeah,
end of, yeah.
to add on to the application, I guess another question could be, what can you give? Because giving is kind of verifying that we have this abundance to us. So how can you give? And going back to the Lighthouse brand, how can your brand give? How can your company, your organization give more? That just perpetuates this idea of abundance. So considering that too. Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful way of tying in the principles we just talked about with regard to the call to action. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's
Thank you.
excellent. Yeah, that's really, really, really cool. Um, love that. Fantastic. And so, again, keeping these questions in mind, again, we're available in different ways, right, on our different channels. Brittany on your channel, me on mine. You can see all of them in the show notes. As we've done this over time, we've have begun to get more responses from our audience and inquiries even. So either individually or together, it's fun to respond to your questions and your concerns, right? We're just, like I said, this is more like a an appetizer about all these
Mhm.
themes. One can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And we're not trying to exhaust everything. We're just trying to kind of shift awareness a little bit in the direction of what's possible here. So, excellent, excellent point. So, um, again, anything else that you want to put into the mix, and then we'll wrap up for today.
No, I think that's good. You summarized it pretty well, and I love that application too. So thanks.
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
you're welcome. Thank you for helping me to get this out
Hmm.
into the world, to share it with the world.
Of course.
I love doing it. It's just so exciting. And just a quick point before we wrap
Hmm.
up. So, um, I have a group
Hmm.
uh, that meets. We've been meeting for since 2010, and it's grown. You know, different people have been coming into the group, and it's um it's where I vet the lesson the first time. So I'll share the
Hmm.
lesson, get what people's thoughts are, how people are
Hmm.
reacting to the lesson, the applications they're making, different
Hmm.
things like that, and then
Hmm.
it becomes uh, the launching pad for what we do on our show. Then I
Hmm.
have another call, different group. You know, sometimes it's the same people. Some people could come the first time, but not the second, and vice versa. But um, then I'll do the show again. I mean, not a show, but a call. It's more
Hmm.
like a study. And from what we've done, I have even more layers of understanding for that.
Hmm.
So just so folks know, that's an extension of the light or the miracle. It's in a group, then it's on the show, then it's in another group, and
Hmm.
then after that we do uh, all the levels of the podcast that get put into
Hmm.
the newsletter and shared out to the socials, right?
Hmm.
Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. So anyway, I'm just trying to highlight how it's it's just amazing to me that all of this has become clearer, and it's low hanging fruit. It really is just so,
Hmm.
with everybody playing their part and doing their,
Yeah.
you know, it's just so easy to put out
Hmm.
these rays of light from the lighthouse. So thank you, Brittany.
Yes.
Thank you, our audience. Thank you for the feedback you do give us about this. Loving all of it. So
Yes. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next month then, I guess.
yes,
Okay.
July.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
that's it for us. Yeah.
It's coming up. All right.
So take good care, Brittany. Take care,
All right. You
audience.
too. All
Yeah, we'll
right.
see you all
Bye.
later.